Number 5. Reg Car. For 20 years, Reg Car was the district attorney of Century County, Pennsylvania. On April 15, 2005, Car phoned his girlfriend and told her he was driving out in the countryside and would be back soon. He never returned. Cops found Car's car outside an antique store. Pretty much everything but his cell phone was missing. There were no signs of a struggle. A search ensued. Car's credit cards and accounts were monitored, with no signs of activity. His laptop was retrieved from a nearby river, too damaged to recover any files. Investigators found that at the time of his disappearance in 2005, Car was working on what would soon be known as the Penn State sex abuse scandal. Car was working on it 6 years earlier than the events to hit the media. Then he vanished. Furthermore, investigators found that Car had in 1998 mysteriously refused to press charges against the coach despite having more than enough evidence. In 2005, the same happened. In 2009, someone got around to searching Car's home computer. Its search history showed that Car had made numerous web searches for things such as how to wreck a hard drive, how to fry a hard drive, and water damage to a notebook computer. It's as if he was planning to destroy the computer himself in a way that would make its contents unrecoverable. So that would mean he dumped the computer and then vanished. Why? It looks like we'll never know. Number 4. Louis Le Prince. Louis Le Prince was a 19th century inventor who specialized in cameras and was so far ahead of his time that he actually created the world's first moving picture. So, why haven't we heard of him before? Because he vanished from a train in 1890. Le Prince was traveling to America to get new patents to show off his newest wonderful toys. In Dijon, France, he checked his baggage, boarded a train bound for Paris, retired to his train cabin, and that was the last time anybody saw him. No passengers saw anything suspicious. There were no noises from Le Prince's cabin, all windows were tightly closed. Yet when the train pulled into Paris, not only was Le Prince not on the train, but his baggage that was kept in a separate compartment was missing as well. Both the train and the railroad were searched in their entirety, but neither the man nor the luggage was ever found. Le Prince was in heavy competition with American film pioneer Thomas Edison. He actively blocked the Frenchman's US patents, while Le Prince returned the favor by having the Americans' camera designs bleed out to French cameramen before he could get European patents for them. In a sweet twist of fate for Edison, Le Prince's disappearance meant that there was no one to hold him back from hogging all the credit. Still, we can't help but think that if you wanted to come up with a way to make a person just disappear, Edison, whose actual nickname had the word wizard in it, might warrant more than a passing glance. Le Prince was never found. Number 3. Jean Spangler. Jean Spangler was a resident of Los Angeles and a gorgeous actress that had just finished filming a bit part in the movie Young Man with a Horn. One October day in 1949, she set off to meet her ex-husband about child support and was never seen again. Her purse appeared 2 days later. The only thing inside was a cryptic note. Kirk, can't wait any longer. Going to see Dr. Scott. It will work best this way while Mother is away. Publicity brought plenty of new tips and leads, each turning out to be completely useless. All clues pointed in different directions and each path was a dead end. Yes, even the ex-husband she was on her way to see. And then we have that Kirk she was working with. Specifically, actor Kirk Douglas. Douglas managed to become entangled in the case by going out of his way to tell everyone that the Kirk in the note wasn't him. Curiously, up until then, the police hadn't really thought of him as a suspect, despite at the time checking pretty much every Kirk and Scott within their jurisdiction, just in case. 3 weeks before Spangler's disappearance, a shady abortion doctor named Dr. Kirk had been threatening all of his former patients over the phone, and a close associate of his actually disappeared without a trace. But no evidence ever turned up connecting him with Spangler's disappearance. In yet another lead, 2 mobsters who had been partying with Spangler also had vanished around the same time. No evidence was found to connect them to Spangler's case. In fact, every day it seemed more like Spangler had just flat out walked off the earth. Lacking gruesome details, the case slipped through the cracks of public consciousness within months. Thus faded the memory of Jean Spangler. Number 2. Jim Thompson. During World War II, Jim Thompson was an agent for the OSS, the predecessor of the CIA. After his service ended, he decided to retire to his mission country of Thailand and enter the strangest possible profession for a former spy. Thompson became a fashion big shot who single-handedly rebuilt the Thai silk industry. On March 26, 1967, while vacationing in a Highland cottage with some friends, he never returned from his solitary afternoon walk. His popularity and power immediately led to the largest search in Thai history. Alas, Thompson was never found. It also seems unlikely that he accidentally got lost or fell. He was a retired military officer/spy with extensive survival experience. Rumors soon had it that Thompson, being a wealthy American expatriate, had been kidnapped. If so, they weren't doing it for the money. No ransom demand appeared, and no evidence ever turned up of such an operation. Despite rewards and multiple search and research parties, no credible evidence of Thompson's fate had ever surfaced. The most generally accepted theory claims he was abducted by communists. No evidence of Thompson's reappearance was ever found. Number 1. The MV Joyita. In October 1955, a merchant vessel named the MV Joyita set sail from Samoa for a 2-day voyage to the Tokelau Islands. carrying 25 people and a cargo of timber and empty oil drums. 4 days later, its destination port sent out a message the ship had never arrived. No distress signals had been received, though Joyita had just vanished. A huge search mission was organized. Still, the vessel wasn't found until over a month later, floating aimlessly a good 600 miles away from Samoa with nobody on board. The Joyita was flooded and tilting to the point where it was barely submerged. The boat's logbook and navigational equipment were missing, as were the dinghy, all 3 lifeboats, and all the food. The radio of the ship was found to be in perfect working order and set up to the emergency frequency. However, it only had a range of about 2 miles due to messed up wiring that had gone unnoticed. They came to find that the ship was completely seaworthy. It had a large hole in its substructure indicating that it had a collision with something, but as the actual hull had not been breached, that was nowhere near enough to cause much harm. There was little water inside the ship, but that was mainly due to it bobbing in the waves like a cork for weeks. If the crew and passengers loaded up in lifeboats and sailed towards familiar waters, why weren't any of them spotted by air rescue? Lifeboats tend to be designed for good visibility, and even if they keel over, they don't sink easily. Most of the windows of the ship were smashed. The main engine was covered by mattresses for no apparent reason, and only one of the other engines was working. One of the passengers was a doctor, and his bag was found on deck with several tools removed and replaced with bloody rags. To cap off the scene, the failing generator had stopped each of the ship's clocks at 10:25 p.m. The MV Joyita would run aground 3 more times in the following years. None of the original 25 were ever found.